Hello, this is the English version of another video that I have posted. This is for the benefit of those of you who probably do not understand Marathi at all, or very well at least, and may prefer the English version. This video is about a police officer, a traffic cop, who I happened to interact with, and there was a small incident that happened, and the conversation that ensued is what is very interesting, to say the least. And this video will include a short interview of that very officer, and this is being posted with his permission, of course. It so happened that I was returning home, I believe on Friday night last week, and it had been raining a lot. Traffic was a mess. There was chaos all over, and at a junction that I needed to make a U-turn at, the traffic cops had turned the traffic lights off and they were manning the traffic. I took about a good part of 20, maybe 25 minutes to cover a distance of 300 meters, before which I would actually end up making the U-turn. And I was driving my car, and a slightly large vehicle at that point, and I was extremely cautious because the visibility wasn't really good, and people were really driving very chaotically, and I had people coming in from all directions, cutting across in front of me. There was pretty much everything happening. So I was extra cautious, and I was really slow while making or executing that turn. And there was this officer who was at that junction. He was kind of, gesturing to me to move quickly to ease traffic, of course. Now, I wasn't complying simply because I was not having the greatest of visibilities, and I wanted to be extra cautious because there were a lot of two-wheelers around. So I kept going slow, and he got mad and he yelled at me, said a couple of things. I passed him by and then got home, but I was affected. I was wondering what it was that I had done wrong, because frankly I thought I was really being careful and cautious, which is the prudent thing to do in such a situation. But I thought about it for a while. Instead of reacting immediately, I thought about it, and I realized that there must be a lot of background to what happened. This is such a hard job, and I imagine that the officer must have had a crazy time prior to having interacted with me. And clearly the frustration of the situation and of the behavior of people while on the streets, driving crazy as ever, must have got to him. So I thought about it, but I still had to address it because there was something that I had to do about it. So I, after a while, after about an hour and a half, I drove back to that very place, parked at a place where it was reasonable, and I walked up to the officer. Incidentally, he was still there on duty, and I went up to him and greeted him, and he looked at me for a second, trying to figure out if he knew me, and soon realized that I was there to talk about something that must have happened that evening. So he was like, okay, so what happened? What is it? Did I click a picture of your car? Are you worried that I'll issue you a traffic challan? Don't worry, I haven't issued anyone any challans today. I was like, no, please don't worry. I don't think you've clicked a picture of my car, but there is something else that has happened. I was passing through this junction. Basically, I made a U here, and you happened to be very mad at me for some reason. And I wanted to tell you that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I really need you to understand that I was driving with the best of intentions and in the best possible manner, considering everyone's safety. I realized that he was already so affected and frustrated by the events that had transpired all evening, that he started telling me about the various different issues that he was facing with people cutting across traffic lines and going in the wrong direction, jumping traffic lights and whatnot. And he was like, it's you have no idea what all I've been dealing with all evening. And I was like, I understand, I am not here to argue with you. What I'm trying to tell you is that there are some of us who are cognizant of the amount of hard work you officers and all your teams are putting in, and we are respectful, excuse that, we are respectful of your hard work and the trauma and the stress that you go through, because I personally have people in the family who are in the either the police service or a department which deals with security for the nation, and I know what kind of lives they live. Their health is pretty much their lifestyle, their work-life balance, if I want to talk about it, is pretty much non-existent. They're stressed all of the time. So I told him that I understand this, and I wanted him to know, him and his team, that there are some of us who are really giving it everything, and we want things to improve. We're taking a lot of care, and that if he sees me ever again on the street, I requested him to look at me and maybe smile, knowing that someone values his work. He did smile a bit, but he then went on to tell me about his life story, and this was an officer who has apparently served in the army, in the Indian Army, for 20 years. He has fought in one of the most critical wars that India has ever fought, the war at Kargil in the year 1999. And he also told me about the time when he was, dealing with terrorists, and he narrowly escaped a bomb blast, which was due to an IED. And in his own words, it was kind of a rebirth for him. Now, here's a man who's been serving the nation for a good part of, I think, 4 decades maybe, and he's been led to such frustration that he was telling me that if he doesn't get transferred to a more sane place, he was considering retiring with just 2 years of service left. And I don't want him to retire, and I wanted him to, continue his good work, however, hard it is. So I thought about it, and the next day I went hunting for him. Literally, I searched for him at different locations and eventually bumped into him. And the video that will follow right after this is my little chat with him again, and I'm hoping it makes some difference. Let's take a look at that video. I will try and post a little bit of a transcript or a translation to that video also, because that's in Marathi as well. And we'll meet right after that video.
नमस्कार, मी पुण्यात सांगवी इथे आहे, सांगवीच्या पोलीस चौकीवर, आणि माझ्याबरोबर एक आराळे साहेब आहेत. त्यांना मी काल भेटलो आणि काल आमची काही चर्चा झाली. त्यातनं 2-3 गोष्टी ज्या निघाल्यात. आता हे 56 वर्षाचे आहेत, रिटायरमेंटला ह्यांच्या 2 वर्ष बाकी आहेत. ट्रॅफिक हे आपल्याच इथे काळेवाडी चौक म्हणून आहे, तिथे ट्रॅफिक काल मॅनेज करत होते, आणि मी ह्यांची हालत काल बघितली की ट्रॅफिक कसं होतं, पाऊस कसा होता, आणि हे कशा प्रकारे त्रस्त होते तिथे, हे आणि ह्यांची पूर्ण टीम. आणि त्यानंतर मी जेव्हा ह्यांच्याशी बोललो तेव्हा मला हे बोलता बोलता असं बोलून गेले की ज्या प्रकारे ट्रॅफिक इथे आहे आत्ता, ज्या प्रकारे लोक गाड्या चालवत आहेत, किंवा ज्या प्रकारे यांचा आता ॲटिट्यूड आहे, तर ह्यांना फारशी उमेद नाही आहे की हे काही सुधारेल, असं ह्यांच्या बोलण्यात काल आलं. ते काल त्रस्त होते, एकदम थकलेले होते म्हणूनही असेल, पण ते माझ्या डोक्यातून गेलं नाही. म्हणून आज मी ह्यांना शोधून काढलं, कुठे कुठे जाऊन शोधून काढलं, आणि ह्यांना पुन्हा भेटलो आहे. आणि मला ह्यांना सांगायचं होतं की असं नाही आहे. आमच्यापैकी काही लोक आहेत जे खूप प्रयत्न करतात. ह्यांचं जे काम आहे, ट्रॅफिक पोलीस, आपले बाकी पोलीस, आर्मीमधली लोक, ह्यांचं जे काम आहे हे आम्हाला माहिती आहे की किती कठीण आहे. आणि बरं, एक सांगण्याची गोष्ट आहे, हे साहेब 20 वर्ष आर्मीमध्ये सर्व करून मग पोलीसमध्ये आलेले आहेत, बरं का. कारगिलची जी 99ची जे युद्ध होतं कारगिलचं, त्यात ह्यांनी जे टायगर हिल, म्हणजे सगळ्यात महत्त्वाच्या पॉईंट्सपैकी एक, ह्यांच्या रेजिमेंटने तो पुन्हा कॅप्चर केला. ह्यांचे किती तेव्हा साथी घायल झाले असतील किंवा गेलेही असतील त्या युद्धात, हे मला तर कल्पना पण नाही. तुम्हाला मला त्याचं काही म्हणजे आपल्याला त्याची कल्पना पण करता यायची नाही. त्यातून ते आपल्याला युद्ध जिंकून आपल्या देशासाठी ह्यांनी सर्व्हिस दिलेली आहे आर्मीमध्ये. त्याही अगोदर काश्मीरमध्ये 92 साली 27 मार्च 1992 साली ह्यांनी मला एक घटना सांगितली, ज्यात हे एका बॉम्बब्लास्टमध्ये अगदी एवढ्याने वाचले. त्यांच्या शब्दात सांगतो, त्यांचा पुनर्जन्म होता तो. आता ह्या गोष्टी ऐकल्यावर ह्या माणसाला मी जर ट्रॅफिक मॅनेज करताना बघतोय की बाकी बरीच लोकं म्हणजे मी बघितलं जे की कोणाला कदर सोडा म्हणजे काहीच पडलेली नाही की एवढं काही होतं आहे, पाऊस पडतोय, एवढा त्रास होतोय लोकांना बाकीच्यांना, आणि आपण आपापलंच बघतोय. हे बघून जर हे मला म्हणाले की मी माझी 2 वर्ष उरलेली करायची का नाही विचार करतोय, रिटायर होऊन जातो, हे बरोबर आहे का? आपण याचा विचार करावा. आपण सगळ्यांनी याचा विचार करायचा. ह्याबद्दल मी तुमच्याशी बोलीन, पण मला ह्यांना भेटून ह्यांना सांगायचं होतं पुन्हा की अगदी उमेद गेलेली नाही, आम्ही काही आहोत, थोडा प्रयत्न करतो. बरं का साहेब? तर तुमची 2 वर्ष तर आम्हाला पाहिजेच, आणि त्यापुढे पण तुमचं अजून आयुष्य आम्हाला बरंच पाहिजे आहे. तर बरं, मी बोलीन ह्यावर, पण ह्यांच्यावर हा व्हिडिओ इथे मी थांबवतो आणि ह्यांना प्रथम आमच्या सगळ्यांकडनं, आपल्या सगळ्यांकडनं धन्यवाद देतो यांच्या सर्व्हिससाठी, आर्मीमधल्या आणि पोलीसमध्ये आता जे करतात त्यासाठी. ठीक आहे, आपण पुढे बोलूया.
All right, so you heard it from the horse's mouth. You heard the officer speak himself, and you heard a little bit about him. I mean, I'm sure there's so much more that we can talk about, but the point behind making this particular video is that I want us all to consider, us civilians, as to how we conduct ourselves when we're out there in public, especially when we're driving our vehicles, because it's such an important part of how we conduct ourselves as a community. Everything we do out there impacts someone or the other, regardless of how cognizant we are of it. And it's super important for us to be aware and respectful of the hard work these officers, these policemen, these army men are putting in to safeguard our country from all sorts of threats. Let's at least not create internal threats. There are enough external threats for them to have to deal with. So let's consider this. And if you agree with me, do let me know in the comments, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about ways in which we civilians, us normal people, can do certain small things, our bit, that can help these officers conduct their business with a little more sanity. And I really don't want such good officers to retire before their time. In fact, we want our future generations to take after them and take our country, our race to a better place. Thank you for listening in. Like always, I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you in the next one.